Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Daniel, aka HashLips, and welcome back to my channel, where in these few videos we will be focusing on Solana, how to create Solana tokens, and even TokenGate, our website. So yes, for the next few videos, the topic will be on Solana, how to create tokens, how we can TokenGate websites, and much more using thirdweb. Now, I do have a thirdweb with HashLips series, and I highly recommend watching these videos so you can get a good grasp on what you can do with thirdweb's SDKs and powerful tools. We might refer to some videos in this series later on if there are any dependencies. And furthermore, if you get stuck at any point, feel free to go to the hashlips.online website, click on the Discord, and join thousands of devs where you can ask your questions. And you can also go to thirdweb and join this Discord as well so that you can get expert help. Now, let's go ahead and get started with Solana. The first thing that we need to do is go to the dashboard of thirdweb. When we are here, we have the option to connect to a wallet. But now we realize that we need some kind of Solana wallet, in this case Phantom, in order to make a Solana collection. So the first order of business would actually be to create a Solana wallet. thirdweb actually has a great article on how to create your wallet, pointed to the dev network, and get some test tokens from the faucet. We are going to do this quickly. To create a Phantom wallet, go to their website phantom.app, click on download, go down and download the browser extension for your browser. After installing the extension, we can go ahead and click on Phantom now, and this should take us to a page which tells us that we can create a new wallet or import one if we have the secret phrases. I'm going to click on create a new wallet. Keep in mind that everything here on out, when you create your password, see your secret phrases, it is very sensitive data. You should never share this with anyone and keep it safe and secure offline so that you always have access to your accounts. The only reason why I am showing you these steps is for educational purposes only, and I will never use this wallet again. Let's go ahead and enter a password. Now we get to a section where we can see the secret recovery phrases. Now, I'm not going to do this, but you can hover over with your mouse over the hidden blurred out section and you should see 12 phrases. It is very important that you store this on a safe place because you will never be able to recover these phrases again. You can use these phrases to recover your wallets, and that's why it is so crucial to never show this to anyone and also to keep it secure. Once you have done that, you will say, I have saved my recovery phrases, and click on continue. And there you go, you are now done. So you can click on finish, and now when you go and hover over your extensions, click on Phantom, you should have your very first wallet set up. There are currently no funds, and this is pointing to the main network, the beta main network. How do we know that? Well, you can click on this icon, go to developer settings, and here we can see we are on the mainnet beta. We want to be on the dev network. Alright. Next, if you want to copy your wallet's address, you can click on the wallets up here at the top and simply click on copy if you need the address. And that's about it. We have now set this up on the dev network, and the last thing that we need to do is actually go to a faucet and get some devnet sol. Going back to this create a wallet article, we can scroll down and we've now done all of this. And right at the bottom, there's a section where we can go to the faucet. Here is the faucet, or you can just go directly to this link. And now we need to enter the address. Like I said, we can simply click on a wallet, copy our address, paste it in here, and request some funds. If you get an error the first time, simply request again until you see this page. And now we can verify on Phantom that we indeed have one test sol. Now finally back in the dashboard, let's click on Connect Wallet and select our Phantom wallet. Click on Connect, and now we can see we are connected. And this is where we get to create some cool programs. Programs in Solana is the equivalent to contracts on Ethereum, so that you just understand why they are called programs. And on a side note, if you are to do this on the main network, you will need to switch your wallet over in developer settings to the mainnet beta, as well as have real Solana to execute. But we are not going to do that. We are going to stay on the dev network for our testing purposes. In today's example, we are going to focus on the NFT drop. So go ahead and select NFT drop. We are going to give it a name. Now I'm going to call this eyes, and the reason is because I have got a collection consisting of some eye images, as well as I got this metadata JSON file. How do you get these files? Well, as a dependency, if you go to this thirdweb with HashLips series and you watch these 4 videos, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, especially the last one, will show you exactly how to get to this part where you have this images folder with metadata. So our collection will be called eyes. Next, let's give it a symbol in capitals. I would just call this EYS maybe. And then for the image, I'm going to select one of my NFTs as the images. You might notice that we have 5 images and 5 pieces of metadata, and that is because with an NFT drop on Solana, you have to supply the total supply, and this cannot be changed. So I'm going to say my total supply will be 5, and here's a little description as well. And now we get to select what network we want to do this on. Like I said, if you want to do main network, then you need to make sure that your wallet in the developer settings are set to main network. But we will stay on devnet, and this is important. So we make sure that we are on dev network, switch this over to dev network, and now we can deploy. Our Phantom wallet will ask us to approve this transaction. So let's go ahead and approve it. Our program has been successfully deployed, and we can even see the contract address, and we can now also search for this on the Solana Explorer. I do want to point out that this is the dashboard, and some people sometimes struggle to find it again. What you can do is, if you have deployed a contract, and whether this is on Ethereum, Solana, whatever it might be, you start off by typing in thirdweb.com, the network that you're on, and followed by the address. If you put in this format, doesn't matter what network it is, you will be able to get to your dashboard. But generally, it is safe when you just go to your thirdweb dashboard, you should see your deployed contracts. Now we're presented with this beautiful message telling us that we need to actually upload some NFTs. We can do this in 2 ways. We can single upload each one, or we can batch upload. This batch upload is this format that I was talking about earlier. I can now simply go ahead and drag this over. thirdweb's dashboard will very nicely display the token itself and the piece of metadata that goes along with it. And here we go. We can just make sure that everything is fine. Click on next. And then here usually you'll get the option to select a delayed reveal, but in this case it's not supported for Solana yet. So look out for that feature in the future, but for now we're just going to reveal immediately as someone is minting our NFTs. We also get to shuffle the order if you like to, but I'm just going to click on upload. As we can see, we are prompted to click on approve. And then it shows that we have successfully uploaded all 5 of the tokens that we stipulated as our max supply. We can see that we can now no longer upload any more. Now here's all the tokens, and the owners are this 1111 address. And now we get to set up some claim conditions for how we want users to be able to claim these tokens. If you've used thirdweb before to create collections, this is very familiar to you. But let's go through this. Click on Add Claim Conditions, and then you get to specify a few parameters. The first field asks you a date when you want this drop to start. Now, if you just leave it like this, it will start immediately, but you can set it to a date in the future as well. Next, how many NFTs do we want to be claimed in this phase? Well, I'm going to say the total NFTs of my collection because I only want to do this drop once. Then it asks us how much do we want to charge per NFT. You can maybe say 0.1 Sol or whatever you want to stipulate. I'm going to leave it to 0. The currency, I'll leave to Solana as well. For the next field, we get to say where the primary sales should go to which address. This is my address that they have entered automatically, which is great. And then we get to say how much royalty percentage we want to have on the NFTs. Now, because I'm charging 0, it doesn't really make sense that I add royalties as well. I'm just going to have this as a free open collection. But you can specify a royalty percentage as well. Let's go ahead and click on Save Conditions. And then we need to approve. Our conditions are now saved. So we can go to Overview and our claim conditions are open immediately. So technically we can claim one of our own NFTs, and that's what I'm going to do here. I can click on Claim and then claim one for myself. This is great because we can use it for testing, and I'm going to try and do that. So let's say approve. And this is a way that you as the developer can claim one for yourself to try it out. But there is a problem. How do we allow people to claim these NFTs? There we can see it's successful. And now I'm the owner. I can verify this by going to Phantom. And then let's go to the NFT section. Here we can see the NFT collection and the NFT that we have received. And here it is. So this is pretty cool, and we can also view this on SolScan to see the actual token that we have. We can see that it is on the devnet, and there we have it. A successful NFT collection created. Now, how easy was that? This does bring me back to the point that I made, that how does the public actually claim our token? Well, we need to make this available on some sort of website for them, because obviously they can interact with the contract, but how do we make it UI friendly for them to simply click on a button like we are doing over here? To achieve this is quite simple. We can go to the code section and see that there are some commands that we can run and hooks that we can use with React using the thirdweb's SDK. And there's even a nice starter template. We can use this to create a Next.js application and then publish it to Vercel. This will allow the public to see your collection and claim those NFTs. To follow along with the next few steps, go ahead and download Node.js from nodejs.org for your operating system. You will also need a code IDE, and I am using Visual Studio Code, which is free, so go ahead and download that as well. We will use this to edit some of the code later on. We would also need Yarn installed, so we are going to install Yarn just now. But what you can do next is open Visual Studio Code, click on Open over here, or File, Open, and go ahead and go to your desktop. Now simply just open your desktop on the root file. Then go to the Terminal tab at the top and select New Terminal. So you have your terminal down here in the bottom, where we can start writing commands. We can now go ahead and close this Get Started page, and let's go ahead and install Yarn. On a side note, if you are an experienced developer, then please feel free to do and set up your project however you like to and use the terminal as you are used to. My videos are catering for people who are just getting started in development as well. So that's why I'm taking this approach of starting it right from the desktop. Okay, so in order for us to install Yarn, what we first need to find out is what is our node version. So in the terminal below, let's type in node-v and hit enter. I can see I'm still using a very earlier version of 16, which is fine. You might have a later version, so I'm using version 16. We need to know the version because if we go to this documentation, we can see that if our Node.js version is anything greater than 16.10, which mine is not, but if yours are, you can run this command. In my case, Node.js is less than 16.10, so I can run npm i-g core pack. So copy this and paste that in the terminal if your version is higher, and I'm going to paste this one. Go back to Visual Studio Code, do this, and hit enter. Now, we should have yarn installed, and we can test this by saying yarn-v, and we can also see yarn's version installed. Now we have everything ready to go. By the way, if you have ever installed Node.js or Visual Studio Code and yarn, then you don't need to do this step over and over again. You only need to do this once and it will be on your operating system. Okay, so now we can go back to the browser and we can see here are the commands that we get to run. The very first command that we want to copy is this one over here. And this is getting access to the template of Next.js for Solana. So we're going to copy this, go back to Visual Studio Code, and make sure that we are in our desktop on a high level, because we want the folder to be created on our desktop. Paste it and hit enter. You might be asked to install the thirdweb CLI if you haven't, so just say yes, and then that will install, and then you can run this, and you should see thirdweb's CLI. Now, the very first question is we get to specify the app's name. I'm going to call this app, like before, and I'm going to hit enter. Then the thirdweb CLI will go ahead and install the dependencies and add the project to our desktop. Here we can see that it's now in the desktop, and we can also see the application over here. Now, we see that we can run yarn dev using the yarn package that we've installed, as well as yarn build. Yarn dev will start our development so we can make changes and see it live. Before we do this, we are required to cd into the app. What cd means is just change directory into that. So what we will do instead is we will go to File, Open, and we will actually open up this app folder that's now created in Visual Studio Code. Why this is important is because if we now see the app and we open the terminal, we should see that the terminal is inside of the app's root. And this is where we can actually run the yarn commands. To start our development server, we can now say yarn dev in the terminal, hit enter, and now we should see that there's a development server running on localhost port 3000. I can hit hold command and click on this, or simply just type localhost port 3000 in my browser. This will now ask me for my Phantom wallet to just be connected. So if you haven't used it, it will log you out, and we can just simply log back in. And then we can connect to the app. We can also disconnect and connect with our Phantom wallet. And there's our address. This is the boilerplate template that thirdweb has created for Solana with Next.js. To help us with our developer process, we can open the Solana SDK documentation. Now, this documentation explains to us the tools that we can use with the Solana SDK with React, what hooks we can use, and we're going to go over this in just a minute. We are going to get most of this from our dashboard snippets over here, but you can always refer back to this documentation. Now, I would say the first thing that we'll need, because we can already connect and disconnect, we will need a minting button, or so-called claim button, in our Solana app. Back in the code, just to clear up a few things. Currently, there's a node process running hosting our website on this local host for development purposes. If we want to stop this execution, you can either close down this terminal or press Ctrl+C to make sure that you are out of this process. You can then always press up arrow to run commands that you've run before. In this case, we want to start it again by running yarn dev. Press enter and we can see that it's now running again. That is how you start and stop the development server. Okay, looking at the folder structure, for the most part, we're going to spend our time in the pages section. When it comes to the underscore app.tsx file, the only thing that we'll need to change is basically what network we want this to be on. So in this case, we want this to be our devnet because we are not on the main network yet. So basically this then wraps these in nice context for our app to be exported. We can save this file and then focus on the index.tsx file. The index file is basically the representation of what we see in our app over here. So if we go back, we can see that there are two images. There's this nice heading and there's a little description, and as well this way for us to connect with this wallet multi-button dynamic. Now what I'm going to do is simply make a few changes so that it actually fits our look and feel a bit better. We're not going to do a lot of stuff. We might do this in the next video, but just so that it makes sense for our app. The first thing that we're going to do is actually get rid of one of these images. Then let's open our images folder and drag over an image in the public folder as well. I'm then going to call this and rename it to be my logo. Once I have that, I can now go and replace this sol with our logo. And let's just call this logo as well. Let's save this and see the result. So there we can see our image. It's a bit small, so I'm going to make this 200 by 200. Save it and go back, and that looks a bit better. Let's go and just adapt this title and the description as well. For the H1, let's go ahead and change the title. I'm going to make it Welcome to the Eyes Collection. And for this P tag, maybe I'm just going to remove it completely along with the link. And that is now my full app. So you can see it's very small. And let's go and view it. And there we go, a very simple representation of what our app could be. Now, we're not going to worry too much about styling. We might, like I said, adapt this in the next video when we're going to do token gating, which is going to be cool. But what we do need is a claim button, because currently we can't claim one of these NFTs. So we're going to turn our attention now to the dashboard again. And now we're going to implement some of these snippets. The very first snippet basically allows us to use this hook. Now I'm going to copy this, and you can see it already added my contract's address. So I don't need to do that. And also the type of contract that we've deployed. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of these comments and place this in here. Hover over the use program so I can just import this here at the top as well. So now that we have our import of the use program hook, we are using it in here. We're giving it the program's address and what type of program we deployed. Now I saved this and it just reformatted. But this is what we need to have access to the current program. The use program hook is very similar to the use contract hook when it comes to the Ethereum chain and thirdweb. This gives us access to a program instance that we can then go ahead and do some queries on, make some changes. So this is the very first step that you'll need. We are not using this variable yet, but we will just now. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our claim button. If we go back to our dashboard, we can scroll down and there's a section that tells us how to actually use the claim NFT hook. So first of all, we can go back to our documentation, place a comma and type in use. This is a great way to also explore all the available hooks for us. Now we want to use this use claim NFT, so let's just make sure that that is imported. Now we can go back. And we already have this program line, so the only thing we really need is this execution of using the hook. So copy this second line. Let's go back and right underneath our program, let's go and add this. We can extract from the use claim NFT hook a mutate call, which is renamed to just claim, a is loading, which will tell us the current state, and an error message. So next thing is we need a button. In the snippet documentation, here is our button. We can just simply copy this, go back, and let's add this button right after this wallet multi-button dynamic. It is a button. It has an on-click event function, which will call this claim function over here. This we pass in the amount of NFTs that we want to claim and give this button a name called claim. I'm going to rename this claim 1i because we have an I NFT. We can even say claim 1i NFT. And then in the button, I'm going to focus on the disabled field and point this to say that this button should be disabled when we are loading something, right? When this process is busy loading, we don't want people to click twice on this button. And that is the adaptations that I'm going to make. So for now, what we can do is also maybe cut this multi-button and add it here to the top. After doing so, I'm going to go back to my application, and this is how it looks so far. Okay, it is very basic, but the core is there, right? We get to disconnect and connect to our buttons, right? And what we want to do is, let's try this out. We connect to our wallet and we want to claim 1 NFT. So I can click on that and we should get a pop-up for us to approve. So let's just wait for the transaction and approve it. After this is done, we can double check and go to our Phantom wallet, click on NFTs, and there we go. There's our newly minted NFT or claimed NFT, so to speak. And how wonderful is that? Now maybe we would like some more feedback on the screen to see how many NFTs have been claimed and, just do little bits of cleanups before we go ahead and deploy our application. So how can we get the data to use in our application from the contract? We can use some of the hooks that's available to us. And in particular, 2 hooks, which is this use claim conditions hook, and also the use program metadata hook. These 2 return to us 2 different data sets. The one has to do with the program's data, and here you can see it returns to us the name, description, image, and so forth. And the use claim conditions returns to us all sorts of exciting things like the max supply and the current minted NFTs. These values, such as the claimed supply, we can now go ahead and use in our application. To extract this data, it has a very similar data structure where we have the data that we can now extract from one of these hooks. And these all take the program as the parameter. We can go ahead and duplicate this. And for this one, we'll use the program metadata. Now, to make this a bit more readable for us, what we can do is rename this data that we extract to conditions, and we can also get the is loading field. But you see, we already are using this variable, so we can rename this to the conditions is loading as well, and then there's no clash. Now, this is very cool, and we can go ahead and use it like so. Optionally, you can also extract the error. But I'm not using the errors right now, so I can remove them. And we can do exactly the same thing over here for our metadata. But instead of saying conditions, we'll say this is the metadata, like so. And now we've got these variables, conditions and metadata, that is extracted using hooks, and we can get to use the values. But let's go ahead and first look at what the values are that we can now use. To get a sneak peek on the data that's going to be returned, we can always log it out. So let's log out the metadata, and we will also log out the conditions. Let's save this, go back to our application, inspect the page by right-clicking and saying inspect. Go to the console, and now we see these objects. So one of them would be the metadata, which is this one, because it has the name, the symbol, and so forth. And this one has the claim conditions info. Things like the claimed supply, which is currently 2, and that is correct because I've claimed 2 NFTs. We also have the total available supply, and many more different things that we can query and display to the user. We will focus on these two. So let's go ahead and create some UI elements. Back in the code, the first thing I'm going to do is create a paragraph tag right underneath my header. And in fact, I would like to use in this place my metadata.description. Now, I can use the isLoading field, and we'll show you how to use this to make sure that it is there. But for now, I'm just going to add the elements. Then right after the button, let's go and add a p tag. And in here, we're going to use the conditions this time and try and get the total available supply. We will add a / and then again, let's add the conditions and this time point to the claimed supply. Perfect. Let's go ahead and save this and go back to our application. Now we can see that we've got our total supply and the claimed condition, and we also have this little description that comes from the contract itself. Notice what happens when I refresh the page. These fields are not there yet, especially the one from the contract takes a bit longer to come back. Now what we can do is put placeholders in there, and then for the data to come, we can just wait for it. And by showing you this, you get to understand how to use the isLoading fields as well. So let's do this metadata first. We know that we have this isLoading metadata. So on the outside, we can ask the question and say if it is loading, then we need to display something else. In my case, I'm going to just say loading, so you can see clearly what I'm doing here. Then we place a colon and we say, else we need you to give us the data. And that's kind of the structure, and you can copy the structure over here as well. And we can, instead of asking the metadata loading, ask if the conditions are loading. And if it is, then I think we can return something like this. And if it's not, we want to return this p tag with the data. So now when we're in the application and we refresh, you can see that now we have a thing called loading. And also you might have missed this, but these showed those two question marks before it actually added the values. And that's how simple it is. So now you also have a reactive UI using the hooks. Before we publish this application, let's go ahead and test it out and see if this updates dynamically. Let's go ahead and mint one more NFT by clicking on our button and saying approved. So let's wait for our wallet, approve the transaction, and then hopefully this should update automatically to say 3 NFTs claimed. And there you go. It's done. So everything is working perfectly. The only problem is this is still on localhost, and we would like to share this with our friends. So let's go ahead and deploy this to Vercel. There are many ways how you can deploy your Next.js application using Cloudflare and all sorts of wonderful stuff. However, for me it makes sense that we use Vercel, seeing that Vercel created Next.js and they make it pretty seamless to deploy. So first things first, go to vercel.com and sign up for an account. It is free, and then you will get to this dashboard. Once you are here, you know that you have your dashboard ready, and then we need to go and install the Vercel CLI. Now let's go ahead and copy this command. We're going to go to Visual Studio Code and make sure that the process of our application has stopped by pressing Ctrl and C. We need to exit the execution. And then instead of yarn, what we're going to run now is the npm i-g for global Vercel. This will install the Vercel CLI. And again, if you have installed this before, you don't need to do this again. I'm just showing this so that everyone gets used to how it is done initially. After the Vercel CLI is installed, you can actually just type Vercel, press enter, and this will start off the deployment for our app. So it says set up and deploy the iApp. We want to select yes, right? So yes. Switch the scope to HashLips. This is my account, so I'm just going to enter yes. And then the link an existing project, we just want to do this one. What's your name of your project? I'm going to keep it as iApp. So I'm just going to hit enter. And now in which directory? This is the root directory, so you can enter as well. Vercel will then look at all the documents and ask us if we want to modify any of our settings. And no, we don't, because everything is working. So hit enter, and now our app will be deployed. Well, after it's built, of course. But you can keep track of this by going to the dashboard now, and it should automatically update, and there we can see the iApp is busy deploying. So just give it a few seconds and we will see once it's done in the terminal so that we can go to our live app. It looks like Vercel is done. So if we go to the dashboard and now click on the application, here we can see that it's ready and the status is live. If we want to view the application, we can simply go to this domain and we just wait for application to load. And here it is, exactly how we have coded it with the loading buttons, and we can go ahead and mint. And this you can actually share with your friends and your community to go and acquire some of the tokens. Keep in mind that this is running on the devnet. And we know this because on the _app, this is on devnet. Now, if you do this the mainnet way, you'll need to first of all set up your Phantom as mainnet, deploy the contract on mainnet, and go ahead and change this to mainnet as well. But that being said, I hope this tutorial was very informative, and now you know how to launch a collection on Solana and build a small dApp like this. Obviously, there's a lot that we can do with styling, and we'll touch on that in the next video. But in the next video, the important thing is I'm going to show you how you can use thirdweb's auth mechanism to change this application and token gate it. It's going to be brilliant, and we get to show users who own your tokens something extra by allowing them to sign in with thirdweb's auth. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you are too. Let me clear the console and leave it as it is. We will be continuing exactly from this point in the next video. So just pause everything, save everything as it is, and join me for the next video where we will be discussing thirdweb's auth. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the content. Like I said, if you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Remember to put that bell notification on so you don't miss a moment of education. I hope you have a fantastic day. Cheers for now.